The big glass room floated in space, far from any planet. Inside, creatures from 15 different worlds sat around a huge table. Some looked like giant insects with many legs. Others were made of gas that swirled in special containers. A few had skin like diamonds that caught the light. They were the Galactic Council, and they had made the rules for this part of space for 3,000 years. Admiral Kyle Harrison stood in front of them all. He wore his best uniform, clean and pressed. Next to him stood Ambassador Lisa Crawford. She had a folder full of papers and information about Earth and humanity. Both of them had traveled very far from home to be here today. The leader of the council was called Kelthus. He was one of the bug people, tall and covered in hard shell. When he moved his mouth parts, it made a clicking sound. Humans had learned that this sound meant he did not like something. Right now, he was clicking a lot. "We have decided," Kelthus said through a speaker that turned his clicks into words humans could understand. "Your people cannot join the council. You do not have the right technology. You are too young as a space-traveling species." Lisa took a step forward. She kept her face calm, but inside she felt angry. "Sir, we have shown you everything. Our doctors can cure diseases that kill your people. Our ships can go just as fast as yours. Our artists make beautiful things. We have done everything you asked us to do." A creature that looked like a snake made of crystal spoke next. Its voice came through a small machine. "We are not worried about your art or your medicine. We are worried about your weapons. We have heard things about ships you are building, secret ships, dangerous ships." Kyle kept his face blank. He knew someone had told the council about Project Lockstep. That was supposed to be a secret. Someone had betrayed Earth. But he did not show any sign that he knew what they were talking about. The meeting got worse. A species called the Kryn stood up. They were warriors, big and strong, with thick skin like armor. Their leader, whose name was Grathnek, was 3 meters tall. He looked down at the humans. "Humans are weak," Grathnek said. His voice was like rocks grinding together. "They play with things they do not understand. Their world should belong to the Kryn. I say we should take their planets. The council should let us do this." The room filled with noise. Different species started arguing. Some said the Kryn should wait. Others said humans needed to learn a lesson. Nobody spoke up to defend Earth or its people. They all just talked about humans like they were not even in the room. Kyle slowly reached into his pocket. Inside was a small device. He pressed 3 buttons in a pattern. The device sent a secret message back to Earth. It was time. Lisa saw him do it. She understood. She stood up very tall and spoke loudly so everyone could hear. "The council is making a big mistake. We came here to be friends. We came here to be partners, but we will not let you conquer us. We will not be victims." Kelthus made a sound that was like laughing. "You have 12 warships. The Kryn have thousands. This is simple math. You cannot win." Kyle spoke for the first time. His voice was quiet, but everyone heard it. "The math is about to change." 3 months before this meeting, something important had happened. On the moon, which circles around Earth, humans had built big factories in space. They built ships there, far from Earth where the gravity was weak. In one of these factories, Dr. Nathan Price stood looking at a giant screen. On the screen was a new ship. It was being built piece by piece. The ship did not look special from the outside. It was smooth and fast-looking. It was about 200 meters long, which is big but not the biggest ship humans had made. Nathan knew that what made this ship special was on the inside. It was the things you could not see. "The beauty is not in what you can see," Nathan told the military leaders who had come to visit. "It is in what exists in many places at the same time." General Claire Mitchell was in charge of protecting Earth. She leaned forward in her chair. "Tell us again, Doctor. Use words we can understand." No complicated science talk. Nathan made pictures appear in the air using light. Every warship in space works the same way. They have shields to protect them, they have armor, they have weapons. All of these things exist in normal space. But the USS Horizon is different. It uses something called quantum mechanics. He touched the controls and the pictures changed. The ship exists in many different states at the same time. It is here, but it is also there. Its weapons can be in many positions all at once. Its shields are everywhere and nowhere. When someone shoots at it, the weapon hits all possible versions of the shield at the same time. The energy spreads out across infinite possibilities until there is nothing left. Captain Danny Lawrence was the man chosen to fly the Horizon. He was a good pilot with many years of experience. "What does that mean when we fight?" he asked. "It means your ship can be in multiple places until you choose where to really be. It means your shields cannot be broken because any attack hits every possible shield position at once. It means you are almost impossible to hit and almost impossible to hurt." The room was silent. Admiral Helen Foster finally spoke. "That is impossible. The power needed to do that would be enormous. We do not have that kind of energy." "It was impossible," Nathan said. "But then we found something in dark matter. We found a way to create a reaction that gives us all the power we need. The reactor is no bigger than a normal fusion reactor, but it can keep the quantum field working forever." General Mitchell looked at the ship on the screen. "How many of these can we build?" "We have built one. It took us 3 years and cost more money than any other project in human history. We could build more, but it would take time. Many years." "One ship," the general said softly. "We are betting everything on one ship." Back in the council room, things were getting dangerous. The Kryn fleet was moving. On the big screens, everyone could see 217 Kryn warships forming a wall around the space station. Their weapons were charging up, getting ready to fire. Lisa looked at her small communication device. A message appeared on the screen. She showed it to Kyle. The message said one word: "Arrived." Kyle allowed himself a tiny smile. Lisa read from her device out loud so everyone could hear. "The Kryn fleet is moving into attack position. They are not pretending, they really plan to attack." Grathneck's voice boomed through his translator. "Your weak defense force cannot get here in time to save you, humans. Give up now. We will let your species serve us as workers." Kyle looked up at the screens showing the Kryn fleet. "We do not need a fleet. We only need one ship." The USS Horizon appeared at the edge of the star system. On the bridge, Captain Danny Lawrence sat in the command chair. Around him, 40 crew members worked at their stations. They had trained for this moment for 2 years. Lieutenant Amy Rogers was in charge of weapons. She looked at her screens. "Captain, I count 217 Kryn warships around the station. Their weapons are charging." "Send a tight message to Admiral Harrison. Let him know we are here," Danny ordered. Dr. Nathan Price was on the ship too. He was watching the science instruments. He had helped build this ship and he wanted to be here when it was used for the first time. "Captain, all systems are ready. The quantum reactor is stable." "Turn on the quantum systems," Danny said. The ship made a sound like nothing anyone had heard before. It was like the universe itself was taking a breath. Reality around the ship began to bend and twist in ways that should not be possible. Nathan watched his instruments with wide eyes. "The quantum field is stable. We are now existing in about 4,000 different states at the same time." Danny nodded. "Take us closer to the council station. Let them see us. Weapons, prepare the quantum lance. I want solutions for where to shoot that cover all possible enemy movements." The ship appeared on every sensor in the system, but it appeared in many places at once. To anyone looking, it seemed to be everywhere and nowhere. It was like looking at a ghost that could not decide where to be. On the Kryn flagship, the officer in charge of sensors was confused. "War leader, the human ship is at position 447-223-881, but it is also at position 447-223-882, and it is also at many other positions. Our targeting computer cannot lock onto it." The officer's voice got higher and more panicked. "Sir, according to our sensors, the ship is everywhere, but it is also nowhere. This does not make sense. Our weapons cannot aim at it." Grathneck hit the arm of his chair with his big fist. "It is just one ship. Fire all weapons at any position where you see it." 217 Kryn warships fired at the same time. The space between them and the horizon filled with weapons fire. Missiles, laser beams, plasma bolts, and particle beams all flew toward the human ship. It was enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The quantum shield around the horizon did something impossible. Every weapon hit the shield in every possible position at the same time. The energy from each hit was spread across infinite different versions of reality. By the time the energy existed in so many places at once, it was too thin to hurt anything. It just disappeared like smoke in the wind. Amy looked at her instruments with amazement. "Shields at 100%. No damage. The quantum field is redirecting all the energy to places where it cannot hurt us." Danny stood up from his chair. Return fire, quantum lance. Use full power. The Horizon's main weapon was completely different from any weapon anyone had ever seen. It fired a beam that existed in many states at once. The beam hit its target from every possible angle at the same time. It also existed in a state of not having been fired at all until the moment it hit. When it touched an enemy ship, that ship simply stopped existing in one piece. The beam reached out toward the Kryn fleet. When it connected with the first warship, something terrible happened. The ship did not explode. It did not break apart. It just stopped being a ship. Its atoms were scattered across different versions of reality. One moment it was there, and the next moment it was gone. No debris, no explosion, just nothing. 10 more Kryn ships vanished in the same way. It took only seconds. One moment they were there, and then they were gone. Stop firing, Danny ordered. Open a channel to the Kryn flagship and to the council room. In the council room, every screen showed what was happening. The Kryn fleet was one of the most powerful military forces in known space. They had conquered dozens of worlds, but now they were being destroyed by a single human ship that seemed to mock the laws of physics. Kelthus's mouth parts were shaking. What have they done? What kind of weapon is this? Kyle stood calmly as Danny's face appeared on the main screen. Council members, this is Captain Danny Lawrence of the USS Horizon. I request permission to dock at this station and speak to the assembly. The crystal snake creature's whole body was pulsing with colors that meant it was very upset. You just attacked a council-protected species. This is an act of war, Lisa spoke firmly. No, the Kryn said they would invade human space. They attacked our ship when it arrived here. We defended ourselves. Our council-protected species allowed to break the laws of self-defense, the gas creature spoke. Its voice was like wind through a tunnel. This weapon you have used violates the quantum restriction accords. Those laws were made 1400 years ago. No species is allowed to make weapons from quantum mechanics. Kyle's expression became hard. Those accords were signed by council species. Humanity is not a council member. You have rejected our application many times. So we are not bound by your treaties. 1 hour later, Danny arrived in the council room. He had taken a small shuttle from the Horizon. Nathan was with him. Nathan carried a tablet computer with lots of information on it. Honored Council, Danny began. His voice was strong. He had just shown everyone how powerful his ship was, and now he spoke with the authority of someone holding a very big weapon. The USS Horizon represents a new era in human technology. But before you judge us, you should understand why we built it. Nathan touched his tablet and pictures appeared all around the room. 6 years ago, we intercepted secret communications from a Kryn research station. They were developing quantum weapons too, weapons that would tear apart space and time itself. The technology was crude and dangerous. It would have destroyed entire star systems and killed everyone living there. The Kryn delegation started shouting, saying this was not true. But Nathan continued talking. We have all the proof here. Your scientists were willing to risk destroying planets with billions of people on them. You wanted to create a weapon that would make sure the Kryn ruled everything. So we had a choice. We could report this to a council that has shown nothing but contempt for humanity, or we could develop our own quantum technology to protect ourselves. Kelthus clicked his mandibles slowly, thinking. If what you say is true, then the Kryn violated the quantum restriction accords. A new voice spoke. It is true. Admiral Victoria Blake walked into the chamber. She was followed by 2 council enforcement officers. We just raided the Kryn research station. The evidence is clear. They have been violating the accords for at least 10 years. Everything changed very quickly after that. The Kryn delegation was arrested. Their fleet was ordered to power down their weapons or face the combined forces of Council enforcement and the USS Horizon. The Kryn chose to surrender, but the real change was in how the other species looked at humans. Fear. That was the main thing Kyle saw in their eyes. Fear and respect mixed together. After the main meeting ended, Kelthus came to talk to Kyle and Lisa privately. Your species has made a very bold move, Admiral. You have proven you have power. But having power and using it wisely are 2 different things. Lisa said firmly, we do not want to conquer anyone. We never did. We just want to be treated as equals. Kelthus's mandibles clicked in a way that Kyle had learned meant he was thinking hard. Equals, you have just shown technological superiority over every council species. You are not asking for equality. Whether you realize it or not, you are demanding dominance. Kyle shook his head. The horizon is for defense. We built one ship to prove we could protect ourselves. We could have built a whole fleet if we wanted to use them for conquest. But you will build more now, Kelthus said. Now that others know it is possible, do you think the crystal people will sit idle, the gas people, even my own species? You have started an arms race, Admiral Harrison. Every species will now try to build quantum weapons. Kyle felt cold inside. He had not thought about that. They had been so focused on protecting Earth that they had not considered what would happen after they revealed the horizon. Now every species in the galaxy would want this technology. Some would use it for defense like humans, but others might use it for conquest. The galaxy might become a much more dangerous place. Back on Earth, the leaders were having an emergency meeting. General Claire Mitchell stood at the front of the room, presenting information to both civilian and military leaders. We have three choices, she said. First, we can share the quantum technology with the Galactic Council. That would mean everyone has it and nobody has an advantage. Second, we can keep it secret and build more quantum ships to make sure we are always the strongest. Third, we can destroy the horizon and all our research. We can pretend it never happened and hope to prevent the arms race Kelthus is worried about. President Richard Hayes was quiet for a moment. Then he asked, "What does the science community think we should do?" Nathan was appearing on a screen through a video link from the horizon. From a science point of view, this technology cannot be uninvented. Even if we destroyed all our research, the fact that we built the horizon proves it is possible. Other species will eventually figure out how to do it too. The question is not whether quantum weapons become widespread. The question is whether we are ahead when they do. Senator Laura Martinez stood up. But at what cost? We have just demonstrated a weapon that can take apart matter at the quantum level. We have terrified the entire galactic community. Is safety worth becoming the monsters they feared we might be? Kyle was there in person. He responded to the senator. With respect, Senator, we did not become monsters by defending ourselves from an aggressive empire that said they wanted to conquer us. The Kryn were developing this technology first. And unlike us, they were planning to use it for conquest, not defense. We stopped them. The meeting went on for hours. Everyone had different opinions. Some people thought humanity should keep the advantage and build more ships. Others thought they should share the technology to prevent war. Still others thought they should try to put the genie back in the bottle, even though that might be impossible. While Earth debated what to do, Lisa was working on an idea. She spent 3 days writing a proposal. She showed it to Kyle first. "This could work," Kyle said after reading it, "but it requires everyone to trust each other. Can we trust the council species? Can they trust us?" "I do not know," Lisa admitted, "but I know that the alternative is an arms race that could destroy us all. We have to try." 3 days later, Lisa stood before the full Galactic Council again. This time, the room was packed. Every species had sent their most important representatives. They all wanted to know what humanity would do with their new power. "Humanity offers the following treaty," Lisa announced. Her voice was clear and strong. "We will share the basic principles of quantum superposition technology with all council species. But there is one condition. We must form a new treaty organization. This organization will be dedicated to the peaceful use of quantum mechanics. It will absolutely prohibit the development of quantum weapons by any species." The room erupted in noise. Everyone started talking at once. The crystal snake creature spoke first when things got quiet again. "You would give us this technology freely, after what it cost you to develop it." "Not freely," Lisa corrected. "In exchange for humanity's full membership in the Galactic Council with all rights and responsibilities, and more importantly, in exchange for a mutual defense pact. Any species that develops quantum weapons for aggressive purposes will face the combined response of all the species who signed this treaty." Kelthus studied the human delegation carefully. "You would trust us with this knowledge, after we rejected you, after we allowed the Kryn to threaten you." Kyle stepped forward. "We trust in mutual self-interest. Every species here now knows that quantum weapons are possible. The only question is whether we develop them together under agreed rules, or separately in a dangerous arms race that could lead to the destruction of entire worlds. The gas creature's form pulsed with colors that meant it was thinking deeply. This proposal has merit, but it requires oversight. We need a neutral party to make sure everyone follows the rules. We agree, Lisa said. We propose a joint scientific commission. It will have representatives from all council species. They will be granted unrestricted access to each other's quantum research facilities, complete transparency, no secrets. The vote took 6 hours of debate. Species argued about details. They worried about risks. They questioned whether humans could be trusted. But in the end, they voted. 12 species voted yes. 3 voted no. The Kryn were not allowed to vote because they were facing criminal charges for their illegal weapons program. The treaty was called the Treaty of Kepler 442b, named after the planet they were orbiting. It established several important rules. First, humanity was granted full council membership. They became the 16th species in the alliance. Second, quantum superposition technology would be shared among all council species for peaceful uses. That meant transportation, energy generation, and medical devices. Third, weaponized quantum mechanics were prohibited except for defensive applications. These were strictly defined and would be monitored by the new Quantum Oversight Commission. Fourth, any species found violating the rules would face immediate punishment and possible expulsion from the Council. As Kyle and Lisa prepared to return to Earth, Danny came to see them at the docking platform. He had news about the Horizon. The Horizon is being decommissioned as a warship, he told them. The quantum weapons systems are being dismantled. The ship will be converted to a pure research vessel. We will study quantum mechanics, but we will not use it to destroy anymore. Kyle nodded slowly. How do you feel about that, Captain? You commanded the most powerful warship ever built, and now they are taking away its teeth. Danny looked out at the stars through the station's big window. Honestly, I am relieved. I signed up to defend humanity, not to captain a doomsday weapon. If we can have security without an arms race, that is a victory worth celebrating. The journey home was quiet. Kyle and Lisa sat together on the transport ship, watching the stars go by. They had achieved what they set out to do. Humanity was now a full member of the Galactic Council. They had respect instead of contempt, but the victory felt complicated. We nearly started a war, Kyle said softly. When we deployed the Horizon, I was so focused on protecting humanity that I did not think about what it would mean for everyone else. We terrified them. Lisa replied, but we learned. We had the power to dominate, and we chose partnership instead. We could have built a fleet of quantum ships and ruled through fear, but we chose to share the technology under rules that protect everyone. That is what makes us worthy of being in the Council. I hope you are right, Kyle said. I hope the treaty holds. I hope everyone follows the rules, because if they do not, if someone decides to build quantum weapons in secret, the next war could destroy everything. They arrived at Earth 3 weeks later. The planet looked beautiful from space, blue and white and green. It looked peaceful. Kyle hoped it would stay that way. They had bought humanity a place at the table. Now they had to prove they deserved to keep it. The council chamber was still buzzing with tension when the vote finally came. Every species representative had their own concerns, their own fears about what humanity had just demonstrated. The USS Horizon floated in space outside the station, a silent reminder that everything had changed. Lisa Crawford stood at the center of the crystalline floor, her hands clasped behind her back. She had spent the last 3 hours answering questions, deflecting accusations, and trying to convince 15 different alien species that humanity wasn't about to conquer the galaxy. It was exhausting work, but she knew Kyle Harrison was counting on her. Earth was counting on her. The Vrax counselor Kelthus raised one of his multi-jointed limbs. His mandibles clicked slowly, a sound that Lisa had learned meant he was thinking carefully about his words. Ambassador Crawford, you ask us to trust your species with technology that could reshape the balance of power in known space. Yet your own history is filled with conflict and violence. Why should we believe humanity will use this power responsibly? Lisa took a deep breath. This was the question she had been preparing for since they left Earth. Counselor Kelthus, you're absolutely right about our history. Humans have fought wars. We've made terrible mistakes, but we've also learned from those mistakes. Every species in this chamber has a violent past. The Kryn built their empire through conquest. The Othrani had civil wars that lasted centuries. Even the peaceful Nethari once used biological weapons against each other. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of as many representatives as she could. The difference is that we acknowledge our history, we don't hide from it, and we've spent the last 200 years building a unified government specifically to prevent those mistakes from happening again. The Terran Defense Force exists to protect, not to conquer. The USS Horizon was built as a deterrent, nothing more. A new voice spoke up from the back of the chamber. It was the Othrani representative, her crystalline body shifting colors as she communicated through her translator. A deterrent that can disassemble matter at the quantum level. A deterrent that makes our entire combined fleet obsolete. You must understand our concern, Ambassador. I do understand, Lisa replied. Which is why we're offering to share the fundamental principles of the technology. Not the weapon systems, but the science behind quantum superposition. We want every species here to understand how it works, to develop their own peaceful applications, and to help us create safeguards against misuse. The chamber fell silent. It was a bold offer, one that Lisa and Kyle had debated for hours before the meeting. Giving away their technological advantage seemed like madness to some of the military leadership back on Earth. But both of them understood that trying to maintain a monopoly on quantum technology would only guarantee an arms race. Better to control the spread of knowledge than to let it develop in secret. The Nethari delegate's gaseous form swirled in its containment field. The colors shifted to deep blues and purples as it spoke. This is unprecedented. No species has ever voluntarily shared such significant technological advances. Then maybe it's time for a new precedent, Lisa said. We're asking for a seat at this council not because we want power over others, but because we want to be part of something bigger than ourselves. We want to contribute to galactic civilization, not dominate it. Kyle Harrison had been standing quietly at the side of the chamber, but now he stepped forward. His dress uniform was crisp, his military bearing evident in every movement. If I may add something, council members, the USS Horizon has 40 crew members. That's all. We could have built a fleet. We have the resources, the manufacturing capacity, and the trained personnel. But we chose to build one ship, one demonstration of capability, because we're not interested in military supremacy. We're interested in survival and partnership. Kelthus's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation. Pretty words, Admiral, but actions speak louder. What guarantee do we have that Earth won't build a quantum fleet the moment you return home? You have my word, Kyle said simply. And you have the inspection protocols we're proposing. Any council member can send observers to our shipyards, our research facilities, anywhere you want to verify compliance. We'll do the same with your facilities. Complete transparency. The debate continued for another 2 hours. Some species were convinced by the human arguments. Others remained skeptical. The Kryn delegation, still under guard after their failed attempt to annex human space, said nothing. Their war leader Grathnek sat in restraints, his mandibles clenched in what could only be described as fury. Finally, the vote was called. Lisa felt her heart pounding as each species representative indicated their decision. The voting system was simple, a holographic display that showed green for approval, red for rejection, and yellow for abstention. One by one, the lights appeared. Green from the Nethari, green from the Othrani, yellow from 2 smaller species who seemed afraid to commit either way, red from 3 species that had close ties to the Kryn, green from the Vrax, which surprised Lisa, green, green, yellow, green. When the final tally appeared, Lisa felt relief wash over her. 12 green, 3 red, and 2 yellow. The motion had passed. Humanity was now a full member of the Galactic Council, but the work was just beginning. 3 months later, Dr. Nathan Price stood in a laboratory that didn't exist in normal spacetime. The Joint Human-Othrani Research Facility had been built using the same quantum superposition technology that powered the Horizon. It existed in a controlled probability state, occupying a space that was technically inside an asteroid but also technically not there at all. Working with alien scientists was challenging in ways Nathan hadn't anticipated. The Othrani thought in patterns that were fundamentally different from human logic. Their crystalline brains processed information through light refraction and interference patterns, which meant they saw mathematical relationships that humans struggled to visualize. His current partner was named Shelva, a brilliant physicist whose crystalline body glowed with soft purple light when she was excited about a discovery. Right now, she was practically blazing with enthusiasm. "Look at these readings," Shelva said through her translator. The device had improved significantly since the first diplomatic meetings. "When we combine your quantum cascade reaction with our crystalline matrix computing, the efficiency increases by a factor of 47. Nathan studied the holographic display floating between them. The data was incredible. This could revolutionize interstellar travel. If we can maintain quantum superposition across greater distances with less energy expenditure, we could cross the galaxy in weeks instead of months." "Not weeks," Shelva corrected, her colors shifting to bright gold. "Days, possibly hours for shorter distances. The mathematics suggest we could place a ship in superposition across multiple points in space simultaneously, then collapse the waveform at the desired destination." "That's quantum teleportation," Nathan said, his mind racing through the implications. "But for entire vessels, with crews and cargo." "Exactly, though we'll need extensive testing. The margin for error is essentially zero. Any miscalculation could leave a ship scattered across multiple quantum states with no way to resolve back into coherent matter." Nathan grimaced. "So we're talking about a technology that could either revolutionize galactic civilization or accidentally disintegrate anyone who uses it." "Precisely," Shelva agreed, seeming unconcerned by the catastrophic failure mode. "Science is exciting, isn't it?" They spent the next several weeks refining the calculations. The Quantum Oversight Commission, the new body established by the Council to monitor research and development, sent observers from multiple species to review their work. Nathan found himself explaining quantum mechanics to a Vrax engineer whose species understood physics through auditory vibrations rather than visual mathematics. But the breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A young human physicist named Dr. Rachel Kim was working at the facility on Titan, Saturn's largest moon. She had been studying the data from the joint research when she noticed something the others had missed. Her message reached Nathan in the middle of the night, station time. He was asleep in his quarters when his communication device buzzed insistently. "Nathan, wake up. I've found something. You need to see this immediately." He groggily accepted the video call. Rachel's face appeared on his screen, and she looked like she hadn't slept in days. Her eyes were bright with excitement, though, and she was speaking faster than usual. "I was analyzing the quantum field harmonics from your tests with Shelva, and I noticed a resonance pattern that shouldn't exist according to standard models." Nathan sat up, suddenly much more awake. "What kind of pattern?" "It's like the quantum field is anticipating the destination. Before we collapse the waveform, there's a fractional moment where the probability distribution skews heavily toward the target coordinates. It's almost like the universe is helping the ship get where it wants to go." "That's impossible," Nathan said automatically, then paused. "Except we keep saying things are impossible and then doing them anyway. Send me the data." He spent the next 3 hours reviewing Rachel's findings. She was right. There was a pattern in the quantum noise that suggested some kind of underlying structure to spacetime itself. It was as if the fabric of reality had preferred pathways, like grooves in a record that made certain quantum transitions easier than others. By morning station time, Nathan had brought Shelva and 3 other senior researchers into the discussion. The Othrani physicist's colors cycled through the entire visible spectrum as she processed the implications. "This changes everything. If spacetime has inherent structure at the quantum level, we're not forcing our way through reality. We're learning to navigate it." The discovery led to a complete redesign of the quantum displacement drive. Instead of brute forcing a ship from one location to another, The new system would find the natural pathways through spacetime and follow them. It required far less energy and was exponentially safer. 6 months after humanity joined the Council, Captain Danny Lawrence found himself back in the command chair of a starship. The Liberty Star was a purpose-built test vessel, smaller than the Horizon but equipped with the latest version of the quantum displacement drive. His crew of 20 included humans, Othrani, and even a Nethari navigator whose unique perception of spacetime made her invaluable for plotting courses through the quantum pathways. Lieutenant Amy Rogers was at the tactical station, though this ship had no weapons. Their mission was purely scientific. "All systems show green," Amy reported. "Quantum displacement drive is charged and ready. The Oversight Commission observers confirm we're clear for the test." Danny looked at the view screen showing their destination. The Carina Nebula was 15,000 light-years away. Under conventional faster-than-light drives, the journey would take nearly 200 years. The quantum drive should get them there in minutes. "Helm, plot the quantum pathway," Danny ordered. "Navigator Shesri, confirm the route." The Nethari navigator's gaseous form pulsed in her containment suit. Her translated voice was surprisingly gentle. "I perceive 7 major pathway intersections between here and the destination. The route is clear and stable. We should experience minimal quantum turbulence." "Understood. All hands prepare for displacement." Danny took a deep breath. They had run simulations thousands of times, but this was the first attempt to transport a crewed vessel across such a vast distance. "Engage quantum drive on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark." Reality twisted in ways that Danny's brain couldn't quite process. For a moment that felt both instantaneous and eternal, he existed everywhere and nowhere. He could feel the ship around him, but it also felt like the ship was spread across the entire galaxy like butter scraped over too much bread. Then, with a sensation like stepping through a doorway, everything snapped back into focus. "Position confirmed," Amy announced, her voice slightly shaky. "We're in the Carina Nebula. Transit time was 4 minutes and 17 seconds. The bridge crew erupted in cheers. Danny felt a grin spreading across his face despite his attempt to maintain professional composure. "Excellent work, everyone. Communications, send confirmation to Earth and the Council station." The test was successful. But even as they celebrated, danger was brewing in the dark spaces between Council jurisdiction. Vector stood in the command center of a hidden facility, watching the same celebration that was being broadcast across Council communication networks. He was Grathnack's son, and he had inherited his father's pride and ambition. But where Grathnack had been straightforward in his aggression, Vector was cunning. "The humans celebrate their new toy," he said to the assembled Kryn warriors. "They believe their technology makes them invincible. They believe the Council will protect them." A Kryn scientist approached, one of the few who had escaped the raids on the illegal research facilities. Her name was Thelva, and she had been working on quantum weapons development for nearly a decade. "War leader, our project is nearly complete. Unlike the humans, we haven't wasted time trying to make our technology safe. We've made it devastating." Vector's mandibles clicked with satisfaction. "Show me." Thelva activated a holographic display. It showed a weapon system that made the Horizon's quantum lances look primitive by comparison. "We call it the Cascade Bomb. It doesn't just disassemble matter. It triggers a quantum chain reaction that spreads through spacetime itself. One device could destroy an entire star system." "And the collateral damage?" Vector asked. "Extensive. The cascade reaction would spread until it hit stable quantum barriers. Depending on local spacetime geometry, it could affect neighboring systems, possibly dozens of inhabited worlds." Vector should have been concerned about the catastrophic loss of life. Instead, he felt only anticipation. "The humans took my father's dignity. They turned the Council against my people. They deserve to feel fear before they die." "There is one problem," Thelva said carefully. "The weapon requires an enormous amount of exotic matter to trigger. We don't have access to the materials we need." "Then we'll take them," Vector replied. "The Council transport fleet carries refined exotic matter between research facilities. We'll intercept one of the shipments." It was a dangerous plan. Attacking Council vessels would bring the full force of galactic law enforcement down on them. But Vector didn't care about consequences. He cared about revenge. The warning came from an unexpected source. A young Kryn scientist named Kethra had been working at Vector's facility, forced into service through threats against her family. But when she learned the full scope of what the Cascade bomb could do, she knew she couldn't stay silent. She waited until the facility's night cycle, then slipped into the communication center. Her hands trembled as she encrypted a message to the council station. She included everything: technical specifications, target lists, timeline for the attack. Then she sent it and waited for the inevitable consequences. The facility alarms went off within minutes. Vector's security forces stormed the communication center, but Kethra had already destroyed the terminal to prevent them from tracing the message. They dragged her to the command center where Vector waited. "You've betrayed your own species," he said, his voice cold with rage. Kethra stood as straight as she could despite her fear. "I've saved my species from following you into madness. What you're planning isn't warfare, it's genocide. If you trigger that weapon, billions will die, including our own people on the colony worlds near your target." Vector raised a limb to strike her, but one of his advisors intervened. "War leader, the message has already been sent. Killing her won't change that. We need to accelerate our timeline." At the council station, Lisa Crawford was reviewing trade agreements when the priority alert came through. She opened the message and felt her blood run cold as she read the contents. Within minutes, she had Kyle Harrison on a secure communication link. "It's worse than what they had before," she said, sharing the technical data. "If they succeed in building this weapon, they could destroy entire star systems, including Earth." Kyle's face on the screen was grim. "How long do we have?" "According to the defector, maybe 3 weeks. Less if they manage to steal the exotic matter they need. Then we need to act fast. I'll contact the Quantum Oversight Commission. We need a coordinated response." But coordinating 15 different species was never simple. The emergency council session devolved into arguments almost immediately. Some species wanted military intervention. Others advocated for diplomatic pressure. A few seemed more concerned about the political implications than the actual threat. Kelthus finally brought order to the chaos. His mandibles clicked sharply, a sound that cut through the arguing voices. "Enough. We are debating while a weapon of mass destruction is being completed. We need decisive action, not endless discussion." "What do you propose?" the Nethori delegate asked. "We use the humans' own strategy against the extremists: transparency. We broadcast the truth to every Kryn world simultaneously. Let the people see what their renegade warriors are planning. Let them decide if they support such madness." Lisa stood. "That could work, but we'd need the defector to speak publicly, to put a face to the information and make it real for ordinary Kryn citizens." "Where is this defector now?" Kelthus asked. "Still at the weapons facility as far as we know. We'd need to extract her first." Kyle leaned forward in his holographic projection. "I can put together a team. Small, fast, using quantum displacement to get in and out before Vector's forces can respond." "That's a military operation on sovereign Kryn territory," the Othrani representative objected. "Even if it's against extremists, it sets a dangerous precedent." "More dangerous than letting them complete a doomsday weapon," Kyle countered. The debate continued, but time was running out. Finally, the council agreed to a compromise. A joint task force would be assembled with representatives from multiple species. The mission would be to extract the defector and gather physical evidence of the illegal weapons program. If possible, they would sabotage the facility to buy more time. Danny Lawrence volunteered to lead the operation. The Liberty Star was fast, and his crew had the most experience with the quantum displacement drive. Within a day, he had assembled a team that included human special forces, Vrax engineers, and an Othrani intelligence specialist. The facility was located on a remote moon orbiting a gas giant in unclaimed space. Vector had chosen the location specifically because it was outside council jurisdiction. Getting there would be easy with the quantum drive. Getting out with a hostile force trying to stop them would be considerably harder. "We'll have maybe 10 minutes on the ground before they organize a response," Danny briefed his team. "Alpha Squad extracts the defector. Beta Squad plants explosives on the weapon components. Gamma Squad provides security. Everyone stays in constant communication. If things go wrong, we abort and jump out immediately. Lieutenant Amy Rogers had traded her tactical station for combat armor. She was leading Alpha Squad, the extraction team. What if the defector isn't where the intelligence says she should be? Then we adapt. But according to the last communication, she's being held in the detention block on level 3. That's our primary target. The Liberty Star made the jump to the facility's location in less than a minute. They materialized in the moon's shadow, using the gas giant's magnetic field to mask their quantum signature. A small boarding shuttle launched from the ship's bay, using conventional thrusters to approach the facility. The insertion was textbook perfect. They landed on an auxiliary platform that maintenance records showed was rarely used. Shaped charges blew through the airlock in seconds, and the team poured inside. Amy led her squad through the corridors, following the facility map that Kethra had included with her data dump. The detention block was exactly where she said it would be. 2 Kryn guards stood outside, but they were clearly not expecting an assault. The human special forces operators took them down with non-lethal pulse weapons before they could raise an alarm. Kethra was in the 3rd cell. She looked up in surprise when Amy opened the door. "You actually came," she said in halting English. "We actually came," Amy confirmed. "Can you walk?" "Yes, they haven't harmed me physically. I think Vector wanted me alive for a public execution. We're going to disappoint him. Let's move." Meanwhile, Beta Squad had reached the weapon assembly chamber. The Cascade bomb was further along than the intelligence had suggested. The exotic matter core was already in place, suspended in a quantum containment field. The Vrax engineer, a specialist named Kralnek, examined the device with multiple sensory organs. "This is worse than we thought. They've nearly completed the trigger mechanism. If we blow the explosives, we might accidentally set it off." Squad leader, a human named Sergeant Ben Martinez, felt his stomach drop. "Can you disarm it?" "Not quickly. The quantum containment is keyed to specific harmonic frequencies. If I try to force it, the same problem occurs." "So what do we do?" Kralnek made a clicking sound that might have been his species' equivalent of a sigh. "We steal it. If we can disconnect the power supply and maintain the containment field with portable generators, we can take the entire assembly back to the ship. That thing must weigh several tons. Actually, while it's in quantum superposition, it has no defined mass. We just need a quantum suspension harness, which we don't have, which I can improvise using components from their own laboratory." Ben made a quick decision. "Do it. Gamma Squad, buy us time. This just became a grab and run." The facility alarms started blaring before Kralnek finished his improvised harness. Vector's security forces were converging on their position. Gamma Squad set up defensive positions at the corridor intersections, using portable shield generators to create choke points. The firefight was intense but brief. The Kryn warriors were fierce, but they weren't expecting opponents with council-grade weapons and training. The human and Vrax soldiers held the line while Kralnek worked frantically on the quantum harness. "Got it," he finally announced. The Cascade bomb lifted smoothly into the air, suspended in a shimmering field of quantum probability. "But this power pack will only last 20 minutes. We need to move now." The retreat was a running battle through the facility corridors. Amy's squad had Kethra safely back at the shuttle, but Beta and Gamma were pinned down by overwhelming numbers. Vector himself had entered the fight, leading his warriors with a berserker fury. Danny made the call from the Liberty Star. "All teams, emergency extraction. Get to the shuttle now. We'll provide covering fire." The ship dropped into low orbit, its quantum displacement drive allowing it to appear directly above the facility. It didn't have weapons, but it did have industrial tractor beams meant for moving cargo. Danny used them to tear chunks out of the facility's outer hull, creating breaches that forced the Kryn warriors to fall back to emergency stations. The shuttle launched with all 3 squads aboard, the stolen Cascade bomb secured in the cargo bay. Kryn fighters scrambled to intercept, but the Liberty Star was already engaging its quantum drive. Reality twisted, and they were gone. Back at the council station, the evidence was overwhelming. The Cascade bomb sat in a secured laboratory where the Quantum Oversight Commission could examine it. Kethra agreed to make a public statement, her testimony recorded and prepared for broadcast. But Lisa and Kyle knew that evidence alone wouldn't be enough. They needed to reach the Kryn people directly, to bypass the extremist leadership and appeal to common sense and morality. The broadcast went out simultaneously to every Kryn world in the galaxy. Communication networks were overridden, entertainment channels interrupted, even personal devices received the transmission. It was impossible to ignore. Kethra's face appeared on billions of screens. She spoke in the Kryn language, her voice steady despite her obvious fear. "My people, I am Kethra, daughter of science leader Mothkin. I was forced to work on a weapon that threatens not just our enemies, but our own colonies and families." The technical data scrolled across screens as she spoke. Simulations showed the cascading quantum destruction spreading through space, consuming world after world. The projections included Kryn colony planets, highlighted in red to show they would be destroyed along with the intended targets. "Vector claims to act for our glory," Kethra continued, "but he's willing to sacrifice millions of our own people just to strike at those he considers enemies. This isn't honor. This isn't strength. This is madness that will destroy us all." The reaction across Kryn space was immediate and overwhelming. Riots broke out on the homeworld as citizens demanded answers from their government. Military commanders who had been sitting on the fence suddenly found the courage to denounce Vector's extremism. Even among the warrior caste, traditional supporters of aggressive expansion, voices rose in opposition. Within 72 hours, the Kryn Planetary Council issued a statement condemning Vector and his followers as criminals. Military units loyal to the legitimate government mobilized to hunt down the extremists. Intelligence agencies that had been quietly supporting the weapons program suddenly became very cooperative with council investigators. Vector and his remaining followers were captured 3 weeks later on a mining station in the Outer Territories. The illegal weapons program was completely dismantled under council supervision, and the Kryn species as a whole began a difficult process of reconciliation and reform. A year after humanity joined the council, the changes were visible everywhere. The quantum displacement drive had revolutionized trade and travel. Species that had been separated by months of journey time could now interact daily. Cultural exchanges flourished. Scientific collaboration reached levels never before possible, but perhaps the most significant change was in how species viewed each other. The crisis with Vector and the Cascade bomb had proven that cooperation was more than just idealistic rhetoric. It was practical necessity. No single species could address the challenges facing galactic civilization alone. Kyle Harrison stood on the observation deck of the new council station, looking out at the stars. The station itself was a marvel of collaborative engineering, built using quantum technology that allowed it to exist partially outside normal spacetime. It was safer, more efficient, and more spacious than any structure built with conventional physics. Lisa joined him, carrying 2 glasses of wine from Earth. "Thinking about how far we've come, and how close we came to disaster," Kyle replied. If Kethra hadn't found the courage to speak out, if the Liberty Star hadn't extracted her in time, if the Kryn people hadn't listened to reason. But they did. That's what matters. We showed that even in the darkest moments, there are people in every species who choose to do the right thing. Danny Lawrence approached, out of uniform for once. He had resigned his commission to become a full-time captain in the Council's exploration fleet. "They're asking me to lead an expedition to the galactic core. 5-year mission using the latest quantum displacement technology. I wanted you both to know before I made my decision." "You're going to accept," Kyle said. It wasn't a question. "Of course I am. This is what we worked for, isn't it? The chance to explore, to discover, to push the boundaries of what's possible. Not to conquer or dominate, but to learn and grow." Lisa raised her glass. "To exploration, then, and to the partnerships that make it possible." They clinked glasses and drank, looking out at the galaxy that had once seemed so hostile but now felt full of possibilities. On Titan, Dr. Rachel Kim was making another breakthrough. Working with a team that included researchers from 7 different species, she had discovered a way to use quantum superposition for medical applications. The same technology that powered warships and enabled faster-than-light travel could now repair damaged tissue at the cellular level, cure diseases that had plagued multiple species for millennia, and extend lifespans far beyond what had been thought possible. In classrooms across human space and beyond, children of multiple species learned together. The Vraks thought in auditory patterns, the Othrani in light and crystal, the Nethara in flowing probabilities, and humans in visual spatial relationships. But they were learning to translate between their different modes of thinking, to see the universe from perspectives that no single species could achieve alone. The Quantum Oversight Commission published its first annual report, showing that every council species had complied with the treaty restrictions. There had been no secret weapons development, no attempts to circumvent the agreements. Trust was building, slowly but surely. Kethra, the Kryn defector who had risked everything to prevent catastrophe, was granted full council citizenship and offered positions at research facilities across the galaxy. She chose to work at the Joint Human-Vraks Laboratory, studying quantum mechanics with a focus on safety protocols and fail-safes. "I want to make sure," she said in an interview, "that no one else can build what Vector tried to create. Not because we ban the knowledge, but because we understand it so well that we can prevent its misuse." Back on Earth, in the quiet moments between diplomatic crises and scientific breakthroughs, ordinary people went about their lives in a galaxy that felt somehow smaller and more connected than it had just a few years before. A human merchant might trade jokes with a Nethari navigator while sharing a meal at a space station. A Vraks engineer might collaborate with a human programmer, their different ways of thinking complementing each other to solve problems neither could tackle alone. The USS Horizon, the quantum-locked warship that had started everything, sat in lunar orbit as a museum piece. Visitors from dozens of species came to see it, to understand the moment when everything changed. But the real story wasn't about the weapon. It was about what humanity chose to do with the power they had demonstrated. Dr. Nathan Price gave the final tour before retiring from public life. He stood on the Horizon's bridge, surrounded by visitors from across the galaxy, and told the story one more time. "They ask me if I regret building the weapon," he said. "The honest answer is complicated. I regret the fear it caused. I regret that we had to prove our capacity for destruction before being taken seriously. But I don't regret that it existed when we needed it." A young Kryn in the tour group raised a limb. "What would you have done differently if you could go back?" Nathan thought about that for a long moment. "I think I would have tried harder to communicate before we built the Horizon, to make the council understand that we were serious about partnership, that we had valuable contributions to make. But I'm not sure they would have listened. Sometimes you have to demonstrate capability before anyone takes your peaceful intentions seriously." "It's not fair, but it's reality." An Othrani scholar pulsed with colors indicating curiosity. "Do you think the quantum age will last, or will some new technology render all of this obsolete?" "Technology always advances," Nathan replied. "But I think the relationships we've built, the trust we've established, those are more durable than any specific invention. The quantum age might end, but the era of cooperation it enabled, I think that's here to stay." As the tour group moved on to the next section, Nathan lingered on the bridge. He remembered the frantic days of research, the sleepless nights working through equations, the moment when they realized they had actually succeeded in creating stable quantum superposition on a macro scale. But more than that, he remembered the choice they made afterward: to share rather than hoard, to partner rather than dominate, to build bridges instead of walls. It hadn't been easy. There had been setbacks, misunderstandings, and moments when conflict seemed inevitable. But somehow, through effort and compromise and a genuine desire to find common ground, they had made it work. The galaxy was still dangerous. There were still threats, still challenges that would require courage and sacrifice to overcome. But facing them together, with the combined knowledge and perspective of multiple species, made those challenges feel manageable instead of overwhelming. Kyle Harrison retired from military service and took a position as an advisor to the Council's Defense Committee. His experience with the Horizon deployment made him valuable in discussions about security policy and threat assessment. But what he enjoyed most was mentoring young officers from different species, teaching them that true strength came not from the weapons you carried, but from the alliances you built. Lisa Crawford remained as Earth's ambassador, becoming one of the most respected voices in the council. She had a gift for finding compromise positions that satisfied multiple competing interests, and her reputation for honest dealing made her a trusted mediator in disputes. And Danny Lawrence. He took the Liberty Star and its diverse crew to the galactic core, sending back discoveries that reshaped everyone's understanding of the universe. They found evidence of ancient civilizations that had risen and fallen millions of years before any current species evolved. They discovered exotic forms of matter that opened new possibilities for technology and energy generation. And they proved that exploration and discovery were the best antidotes to fear and suspicion. The council grew as well. New species were welcomed as they achieved the technological and social development necessary for membership. The standards remained high, but the path to membership was clearer now, and every new species that joined brought fresh perspectives and capabilities that enriched everyone. The quantum age had begun with a demonstration of military might, but it matured into something far more important. It became an era of unprecedented cooperation, where species that had barely known of each other's existence just a few years before now worked together to solve problems and pursue opportunities that no one could tackle alone. And at the heart of it all was a simple truth that humanity had proven. Having the power to destroy was meaningless unless you also had the wisdom to choose partnership instead. The Council had frozen in fear when they saw what the quantum-locked warship could do. But humanity had responded not with conquest but with an open hand. That choice, more than any technology or weapon, was what changed the galaxy forever. The years that followed brought challenges that no one could have predicted. Pirates and smugglers attempted to steal quantum technology, leading to the creation of a joint council security force. Rogue scientists from various species tried to circumvent the weapons restrictions, requiring constant vigilance from the Oversight Commission. And there were always political disputes between species that threatened to undermine the fragile peace. But each challenge was met with cooperation rather than conflict. When a plague struck the Nethari homeworld, human medical researchers worked alongside Othrani biochemists to develop a cure using quantum-enhanced cellular repair. When a stellar collapse threatened to destroy 3 inhabited systems, Vrax engineers and human physicists used quantum displacement technology to evacuate billions of people in a matter of days. The economic benefits of cooperation proved just as important as the security benefits. Trade flourished across the galaxy, as quantum displacement made transportation fast and cheap. Resources that had been rare became abundant as mining operations could reach previously inaccessible locations. And the sharing of technology meant that all species advanced together rather than competing in isolation. Education systems evolved to prepare young people for life in a multi-species civilization. Children learned not just the languages and customs of other species, but also how to think in different cognitive frameworks. A human child might spend a year learning to perceive mathematical relationships through sound like the Vrax, while a young Othrani studied visual spatial reasoning with human teachers. The cultural exchange went both ways. Human music became popular on Vrax worlds, where their auditory sophistication allowed them to hear harmonics and patterns that humans couldn't consciously detect. Othrani sculpture, created through carefully controlled light refraction in crystalline matrices, found enthusiastic audiences on Earth. And Nethari philosophy, based on their unique perception of probability and possibility, influenced human thinking about choice and free will. There were still species that remained outside the Council, either by choice or because they hadn't yet achieved the necessary development. The Council established first contact protocols and support programs to help emerging species navigate the transition to galactic civilization. These programs drew heavily on humanity's recent experience joining the Council, using the lessons learned to smooth the path for others. The horizon itself became a symbol of transformation. Young people from across the galaxy came to see it, not as a weapon of war, but as a reminder that power and responsibility went hand in hand. The museum included interactive exhibits where visitors could experience simulated quantum superposition, learn about the physics behind the technology, and understand the ethical choices that shaped how it was used. One exhibit focused entirely on Kethra's story. Her decision to risk everything to prevent catastrophe inspired countless others to speak up when they saw wrongdoing, regardless of the personal cost. She became a symbol of the idea that moral courage was the most important form of strength. The Kryn species underwent profound changes in the wake of Vector's defeat. A new generation of leaders emerged who rejected the old warrior culture's emphasis on conquest and domination. They found new sources of pride in scientific achievement, artistic expression, and diplomatic skill. It wasn't an easy transition, and there were still Kryn who mourned the old ways. But the majority recognized that their species' survival and prosperity depended on adaptation. The quantum displacement drive continued to evolve. Second-generation systems could transport entire cities' worth of people and cargo. Third-generation drives achieved such precision that they could place objects at specific locations, with accuracy measured in centimeters rather than kilometers. And research into fourth-generation technology suggested that instantaneous travel anywhere in the galaxy might soon be possible. But with each advancement came new responsibilities. The Quantum Oversight Commission grew in size and authority, developing sophisticated monitoring systems to detect any misuse of the technology. Every council species contributed personnel and resources to the effort, recognizing that maintaining trust required continuous work and transparency. Lisa Crawford's finest diplomatic achievement came during her 10th year as ambassador, when she mediated a territorial dispute between the Vracs and a newly contacted species called the Meridians. The conflict had the potential to escalate into violence, but Lisa found a creative solution using quantum technology. The disputed region was placed in a controlled superposition state, allowing both species to use it simultaneously without interference. It seemed impossible, but the physics worked, and both sides accepted the arrangement. Kyle Harrison's legacy extended beyond his military service. The training programs he established for multi-species military cooperation became the standard across Council space. Officers learned to command diverse crews, to coordinate with forces from different species, and to think strategically about security challenges that crossed traditional boundaries. His emphasis on building relationships and understanding different perspectives became fundamental to Council military doctrine. Danny Lawrence's exploration missions discovered dozens of new worlds suitable for colonization. But rather than claiming them for humanity alone, Earth proposed they become joint colonies where multiple species could live and work together. The first such colony, named Unity, became a model for integrated multi-species communities. Children grew up speaking multiple languages, playing with peers from different species, and learning that diversity was a source of strength rather than division. The scientific community flourished in ways that would have been impossible without cooperation. Dr. Rachel Kim's medical breakthroughs extended the healthy lifespan of every council species by an average of 30%. Dr. Nathan Price's research into quantum field theory led to new understanding of the fundamental nature of reality itself, and collaborative projects involving researchers from all 16 species made discoveries that reshaped entire fields of knowledge. The arts experienced a renaissance as well. Composers created music that could be appreciated by species with vastly different auditory systems. Writers crafted stories that explored universal themes through the lens of diverse cultural perspectives. And visual artists found ways to create works that remained beautiful whether viewed with human eyes, Vrac's acoustic sense, or Nethari probability perception. Perhaps most importantly, the younger generation grew up taking cooperation for granted. To them, The idea that species might fight wars over resources or territory seemed as archaic as human tribal warfare seemed to modern Earth citizens. They were still competitive, still ambitious, still driven to achieve and excel. But they channeled those drives into productive pursuits rather than destructive conflicts. The Council itself evolved to meet the needs of its growing membership. Democratic reforms gave smaller species more voice in decision-making. Economic development programs helped less advanced species catch up technologically without creating dependency. And the judicial system developed sophisticated methods for resolving disputes that respected the different legal traditions of various species. The quantum age brought abundance that earlier generations couldn't have imagined. Energy was essentially limitless thanks to quantum reactors. Transportation was fast and cheap thanks to displacement drives. Medical care could cure almost any illness and repair almost any injury. And the sharing of knowledge meant that technological advancement accelerated exponentially. But abundance didn't mean the end of challenges. Resources still had to be managed wisely. Populations had to be distributed sustainably across the galaxy. And the environmental impacts of quantum technology on local ecosystems had to be carefully monitored and mitigated. These challenges required ongoing cooperation and careful planning, but they were problems of success rather than failures of policy.